if you work in an underserved community. The assumption is a lot of our patients don't have this knowledge. So, and we have this knowledge and we're still finding it difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So, like, you can only imagine if, you're treating patients, which many of us are, that don't have this knowledge. So, my question to you is, like, where do you see this in the future? Like, if we don't make changes within ourselves now, like, where do you see us 5, 10 years down the line?
We can have all of the knowledge, all the books, all of the access on the internet to give us in-depth insight into everything. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's, psychological, emotional, spiritual. There's a lot of other factors that would impact the journey. Where do I see us? I see us all with the way the economy is, with the way our challenges right now, with, again, unfortunately, with war that's going on in Israel. There's so many other factors that come into play that can derail us from what is our knowledge versus what is our other barriers. Emotional. Again, the psychological. Again, it's easier and it's more gratifying for those quick fixes. Sitting at home and kind of watching television, watching the internet, and not really getting out of there, moving. There's so many other risks that are being posed to us now, and even our children who are sitting in front of the internet. I think there's so much more that we have to do that we're not even yet starting to scratch the surface on how I think, unfortunately, it could have a negative impact on us in the future if we don't make a change.
Personally, I'm nervous about the next 5 years. I'm really nervous about the next 10 years because it's getting worse.
Yeah,
We have all this access to information, but we're still not able to apply it. Why?
right. Hmm.
So if you could go back and talk to your younger self when
Hmm.
you first started out, if you could go back and have conversations with, the nurses that you started off with when you first started,
Hmm.
what types of gems would you give yourself and them pertaining to maintaining their health and wellness while they're on the shift?
Coming from a Latin culture, I think I would have been able to bring a little bit more diversity in the conversation and really, again, um, been able to help not only the nurses on the floor, with the diverse conversations and the challenges, not that 1800 calorie or 1200 calorie diet, but although I know that's important, culture wasn't infused into that. And so we were unsuccessful in maybe teaching some member or patients um, to make a change when you're not being inclusive of what their feelings are or their culture is. And so, we're setting them for failure if we weren't able to infuse that conversation with themselves. We were teaching our ways as opposed to what they needed to have. And healthcare has changed so much, and now it's a much more diverse conversation than what it was before.
I think that's very important that you mention that diversity aspect because I believe that health and wellness is subjective. What works for me is not going to work for the person next door. What
Mhm.
works for me is not going to work for you. And I think that that's part of the journey, the
Yeah.
wellness journey, is find out what works for you. So I
Mhm.
could say what works for me is, I not going to say that I don't eat meat. I do eat meat, but primarily I eat plants. I might
Mhm.
have some meat once or twice a week and that makes me feel good. I feel
Mhm.
better that way. I run consistently. What are some of the things that you do to kind of maintain your health and wellness in this chaotic environment? I mean,
Yeah.
you see healthcare, you're in
Mhm.
healthcare, it's chaotic. Like, what are some of the things that you do now?
One of the changes that I've made is that I've been very proactive in preventive health. I do see, again, I have my annual visits. I have all of the, scheduled mammograms, pap smears, blood work. I go and make sure that there really isn't anything that's going to sneak up on me.
Right.
Being a single mom, I really put that future thinking in place saying, I want to be around for my son. I want to be around for my grandchildren. I want to be around for a lot of the future, and I can't be there if I'm not willing to really take a hard look at myself now and see how is my body right now? Is there anything I'm neglecting? Is there anything I'm doing? That path, like I said before, of health and wellness and the journey of, eating or, exercising is an ongoing battle, I think, for a lot of us, myself very much so. But making sure that I keep a check on my engine light, making sure that there's nothing that I have to take care of. Um, that's for me, I think one of the most important activities or interventions that I can do for myself. Just again, keep an eye on my baseline and making sure that there's nothing deviates from that. Because every day is going to be an everyday struggle. But that is, again, a constant, like almost check in.
So that takes awareness. Like you have to
Mm.
be constantly aware of yourself in the moment and thinking, all right, how am I feeling today
Mhm.
versus how I was feeling yesterday?
Yeah.
Um, and I find that that's difficult, as you mentioned. It's an uphill battle.
Mm.
Being constantly aware all the time amongst
Yeah.
the chaos and amongst just everyday life. You mentioned you're a single mother.
Mm.
That's a lot in itself. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Just being a single mother and trying to instill the right things in your child, all
Absolutely.
while you're dealing with yourself and building yourself up.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. It's about really teaching the next generation, right?
Yeah,
Letting them know that, yep, I am going for this, and so are you. You're going for your checkups. You're going for your immunizations. This is important. You need to do this. Going for your dental care. All of those are important factors in investing in yourself. And so, as long as we're teaching that to, I think, to our children, again, I think, a step in the right direction.
right.
Chaos is around us all the time, but these things are important for us to
Yeah.
be, again, aware of our health.
To piggyback off that, leading by example, when your child sees you struggling and still making good dietary and lifestyle habits and decisions,
Hmm.
that automatically transcribes into them some way. So, when they're feeling stressed out as they get older, they might say, all right, I saw my mom doing this when she was stressed out and
Hmm.
it helped her, so let me try this. I
Yeah.
think that's super important. So what are some of the things that you do to kind of model good wellness behavior for your child?
So I think having open dialogue about how we're feeling,
Yeah,
both from a physical, but from an emotional, mental awareness.
yeah,
I think, again, he sees when I get up to go to the gym at the crack of dawn, because
yeah,
really a busy schedule is a
yeah,
busy schedule. And really, I have a friend that I go with. And so we get up and we're committed to getting to the gym by 5 in the morning,
yeah,
doing your hour there, because really your day is jam packed.
yeah,
And am I saying that's right for everyone? No, that's not. It took a lot out of us to really get committed into that pattern of behavior. But I think, I wanted to show him, say, what, mom's really busy all day, but you know what? I have to make time. And, the only time I have is in the morning. And so,
yeah,
if you want something bad enough, you have to find a commitment to do it and the drive. And sometimes the support, right? That's someone that's there to say, hey, get up, let's go. It's like, you're right. Let's go.
yeah,
So it's okay to have someone to help you. It's okay to, you have the motivation, you bring something, then you support them when they're not ready to do it and say, come on, you have to go. So I hope that, giving him that type of transparency that, hey, I need help, I'm committed, I help my friend, that goes down, and he sees that. If he doesn't see it now, he may see it in the future as a, something to reference.
I'm happy you mentioned that because for boys, being vulnerable is not easy. So
Mhm.
creating that space to
Yeah.
even get to the point in
Yes.
being comfortable
Yeah.
to
Absolutely. That's a tough nut to crack.
yeah. Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
mean, even for myself, I'm a grown man, and it's still like to be vulnerable in front of people is not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
your mom, so it's a little
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a little bit more, I think, of a little wiggle room there to have a conversation. But
Right,
then he'll shut it
right.
down when it's something uncomfortable. He'll shut it down.
It's like, all right,
Yeah.
next.
Yes. It's too much, mom.
Trust me, I totally understand. Totally
Yeah.
understand. Even as a new nurse, I remember being vulnerable as a new nurse, and
Hmm.
I remember like I had a tough shift, and I wanted to cry. I didn't cry. I wanted to cry though, and I was just like, man, I really needed somebody in that moment to tell me, it was okay, and I did. I had my preceptor, but
Hmm.
from my experience now, like I noticed that there aren't a lot of experienced nurses out there
Yeah.
precepting newer nurses,
Hmm.
and it's a shame because I know that there were moments where I needed
Hmm.
just someone who had some experience to say to me, "Hey, it's okay. This is how we do it. Move forward." Like, just to coach me through whatever it is the issue was.
Hmm.
We don't have that now. And I found when I was a manager that I was that for a lot of newer nurses, and it was very overwhelming. So I had to practice self-care or else I wouldn't have been able to give them anything.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what advice would you give new nurses who are experiencing this? Because there's a lot of us. There's a lot of new nurses out there who don't have that preceptor that can kind of mold them the way that, you might have, or I
Mhm.
definitely had.
Yeah, I think from my experience, I think I came from a generation of like the nurses eat their young type of generation. And I learned a long time ago that that's not how I wanted to be as a nurse in
Right,
my future career. So I feel as though that I've made a very conscious decision not to be that particular type of older nurse.
right,
Um, in my current place where I work, I actually am a mentor. I actually have nurses that come to me and say, "Well, would you mentor me?"
mm,
And I said, "Sure." I think it's one of those where you reap what you sow, or what you put out there is what you get back. I'm really big on karma and really kind of what positivity. You can get so much more, honey, versus having to, like, I'm more of the carrot than the stick approach. That's just the way I have evolved. I think based on my past experiences. I don't think that, doing that type of initial mentoring when I started as a nurse helped me. I actually even saw nurses that started with me, really, like you said, were just emotionally, almost traumatized from like the fact that it's such a hard job
yeah,
and there's so much responsibility, and you have no one to lean on,
yeah,
and you get, in every corner almost like shunned, like, figure it out. And
yeah,
it was tough. And so I thought, that's not how I would want anyone to treat anyone that I knew. And I didn't like it. So I think that's kind of shaped me a little bit to be more, like I said, for me, I mentor, I reach out, I think I'm more of a positive thinker, because I just don't find value in negativity. I just think, you get more from positivity.
right, right. You kind of find wellness in giving back as well.
Mhm.
Like, for some, and I can't explain it. I don't know what it is, but when you're giving back, when you're instilling in someone else, and then you see them flourish,
Mhm.
it almost gives you something in
Yeah.
return. And that adds to your health and wellness. I mean, like I mentioned, like, having a lot of those new nurses, and although I don't work with them anymore, they
Mhm.
still contact me and they still ask for advice, and that makes me feel good that they
Yeah.
even came to me to ask that advice, because they didn't have to. They could have went to anybody, but the fact that they trusted me to give them advice,
Mhm.
that's it's meaningful within myself. So I know that feeling.
Yeah.
um
100%.
you mentioned you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to go to the gym. I'm sorry, I want to revisit that, because that takes discipline. I mean, even someone who avidly works out, it's still hard for me to get up at five
Yeah.
o'clock. Um, Discipline. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how you got to the point where you can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I don't want to say that I'm any superhero or just, what, hey, I jump out of
It
bed and
sounds
run to
like
the
it.
gym. No, not by the long shot. I am someone that does have like that yo-yo diet. Like, gain weight, I lose weight. I gain weight, I
Yeah,
lose weight. I commit to something, I jump off. But I found that working out really gives me that adrenaline that I really need in the morning, because I've learned along my years of trying all different types of health and wellness, you know, pro, techniques. Just working out just gives me the most happy feeling, right? It just
yeah,
makes me feel accomplished in the morning. It makes me start the day off really early. Um, but my day is so full, having a teenage son, having a full time, very, demanding job, trying to cook healthy meals, and, and not always healthy, but, cooking at just cooking alone
yeah,
is takes time.
yeah.
By the time you have a full day, honestly, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay home, or I go running to the grocery or do some other errands. There really is, at least for me, there wasn't any other time in the day for me to squeeze in for myself.
Right,
And I said, and again, having friends that are kind of almost similar in my situation, we
mhm,
said, let's try. There was a promotion that was going on in the gym that offered, again, they had 5 o'clock classes, 6 o'clock classes. And we're like, why don't we try it? Let's see what it works out. And it's a limited time. What could it hurt?
right,
And it was a struggle in the beginning. It was a struggle, but we were able to get up. And then we got to the point where, like I said, it just became second nature to just kind of get up and go, because you knew that if you missed it, you actually It didn't feel great because
Right.
you know that one, you missed a time that you dedicated for yourself,
Right.
and then you both were paying money for it. So again, it was like, well, we missed out on that. We just paid for it and we still missed it. So again, a lot of consequences for not going. And so it just became second nature where we both came in. Now, again, did we go 100% of the time? No. But we went 90% of the time, right? Because there is times we just don't have the mental facility to get there. But, 90% of the time for me was a win. It was like I said, it was a commitment and a time, and the benefit of going outweighed the time, the 10% where I skipped it. So yeah, it works out well, again. So
Yeah, when you get to that point where it feels weird if you don't do it, I
yeah,
think you kind of achieved a goal, like achievement unlocked at that point,
yeah,
'cause
yeah, exactly,
you you
exactly, yeah.
you got the mojo going at that point.
Hmm.
And I think it just really to get to there, once you and it's not easy getting to there, but once
Yeah,
you get there, you're there, you're good. But to get to that point, it's really just one step at a time. It's really just that
yeah,
discipline to say, all right, I'm gonna do it no matter what. I know this doesn't feel good. I know it's cold in the morning, to take the blankets off, it's gonna be freezing. But if you just find the will and the discipline
hmm,
to just do it,
yeah.
right? You'll
Yeah,
get
it
to
becomes a pattern once you start. It's like you have to just give yourself some time to start. And I think there's even research on it. It's like just do something for seven times
yeah,
before it becomes a pattern.
right.
So you have to get over that little hurdle. So
Right. Nursing and healthcare in general has a lot of challenges. We have the Kaiser strike in California, the largest healthcare strike. We just recently had a healthcare strike in New Jersey and New York. I'm sure there's more strikes coming. I personally feel that with all this geopolitical things going on in the world, that we're not talking about healthcare enough. And I believe that if our healthcare system is fractured even further, because to me, we're almost at a point. If we're fractured even further, I feel it's going to be pretty bad.
mhm.
What do you think are some of the things that we can kind of do to start addressing these topics and keep them in the forefront of what should be, in my opinion, American society?
When we talk about raising awareness and hospital utilization, sometimes I think if we're able to increase our preventative, we may be able to decrease the need, right? So it's when supply demand. When you have some if we don't increase awareness among our population, you know, just taking certain preventative measures may decrease the need to go to the hospital as often, right? We have our diabetics, our patients with heart failure. There's some steps that we can take that can help prevent us from going into the hospital that may just be, again, not really needed. And not because we don't, healthcare is needed, right? We know we need emergent healthcare for certain situations. But if we don't check our blood sugars every day, if we don't follow a healthy diet, we put ourselves at risk. And so we put then the demand of us needing healthcare more, urgent healthcare, because we have to address something that maybe we could have taken care of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's not easy, right? It's not easy. We're people, we have choices, we can make good choices, we can make bad choices. We're here to live and make those decisions ourselves.
Right.
I think that we, as healthcare professionals, there's an opportunity there to teach and educate, from different angles to help us decrease the need to go, again, I guess it goes, the utilization of the hospital that, again, may impact the need to strike because we may have more resources than available because people are not using it as much
Right.
possibly.
I'm an emergency room nurse, so I
Oh,
totally understand that comment.
yeah.
But it's like if you take care of yourself and if you stop eating the foods that you may or may not know are causing
Hmm.
harm. So if you don't know, a lot of processed foods cause you harm. And if you monitor yourself, you take ownership of your health. You check. You're constantly
Hmm.
going to the doctors and getting checkups when you're supposed to. And your health is a priority. Yes, I agree. You might not need to go to the emergency room
Yeah.
all the time.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many different ways to look at it, right? We have the physical health, right? So there are certain things that we can take ownership of and control
Yeah.
and hopefully, again, avoid. Then we have the mental health aspect of it, which is a whole other dynamic. And so
Yeah.
that may be something where we can or have a little bit more work to help. And again, so there's, like I said, it's such a global problem, but I think is it worth taking the time to have almost groups, panels, and see how can we divide and conquer that?
If you could talk to any brand new nurse right now, fresh out of nursing school, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Work in a hospital first. Go really see and hone those critical skills. Really get hands-on experience working with patients one-on-one. See the type of patients that are out there at this time. You can't replace that primary experience in the hospital. I think there's so many nurses that come out, and it affords such an opportunity for different settings. And as nurses, we really are blessed with having choices. But as a new nurse, I think there's so much growth and potential to put into your toolbox. And I think that hands-on experience, that one-on-one, seeing the cyanotics and the labor breathing and all of those little things that you may not ever get when you're in a different type of setting, let's say the managed care where we're on a phone. You're honing different skills. But I think you bring that wealth of information with you to do that. So I would just say, if you're not thinking of going to the hospital, I think that's a wonderful place. Patient care, it's a wonderful place to start.
I wholeheartedly agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. You get that first year of experience
Yeah.
hands on,
Mm-hmm.
learn the ins and outs,
Yeah.
learn how to
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation with patients, learn how to
Yeah.
interact
Absolutely.
with patients, learn how to deal with the family members of patients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I said, you can't replace that.
Yeah.
You really can't. And you are going to use all the learning you did in school that you thought you never would. You're definitely going to bring it in. You're going to be pulling through those in your head, like, oh my gosh, what do you do with somebody who's acting erratic, or someone who's coming in and they're going to labor. Like, there's whatever field you're going into, seeing it with your eyes, touching it with your hands, really smelling it, the air, what's going in the air. You can't beat that experience.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Hmm.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for joining. I hope that you will continue your wellness journey and continue to spread the message and mentor young nurses to be better versions of themselves. Our parents in that generation, the baby boomers, they're getting they're getting older, and there's a lot of them, and we
I
already
know.
have a really high demand of our healthcare system now. And so when you have the baby boomers getting older and getting sicker, I feel like we have a lot of challenges ahead of us in the next 5 and 10 years. And so that brings me to like mental health, right? And being a nurse and having to deal with the world chaos and having to deal with the stress of the job. How do you take care of your mental health and your wellness?
Me, myself, I exercise.
So how
That's
often
how I do it.
how often do you do that?
Oh, 5, 6 times a week.
Okay.
Sometimes 2, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
See, I think so yes, I became a nurse for financial reasons. Tired of being laid off, tired of not having financial stability.
Right.
And I was in the army, and I was always into exercising after I came home from the army. So I became a personal trainer, and learning the AMP, Anatomy and Physiology courses kind of helped me so much fall in love with nursing. Because I'm like, oh wow, I can really put these two things together. I was already a personal trainer.
Gotcha.
So I was able to find a love for nursing and really be able to stick to it and be really good.
So okay, all right. As I close my laptop now we can. So you're a personal trainer first, all right. So
Yeah.
so let me tell you. Well, I told you about my journey, right? So I told you how I started off. I was very much into my health. Got married, had children, got unhealthy, realized where I was headed, and I started to get healthy again. And then one of the things that I did differently now versus when I first started doing it was I ran cardiovascular. I
Mm-hmm.
run 3 to 4 times a week, no less than 3 miles. And I found that has helped my mental health tremendously.
Absolutely.
Tremendously. I've been to therapists, I've done all that stuff before, but nothing has helped me as much as physical exercise.
Yep.
What do you have to say to that?
I mean, I think that's a sign of youth. I think that is the cure for mental health, for depression.
Yes.
That is, for me, I run 5 days, 5 times a week.
Right.
I do weights. I have a whole gym downstairs in my house. I have everything that I need. I have it.
Right.
And I can honestly say it really saved my life, kind of, because I was young, dumb, just doing stupid stuff. And until I started exercising, I was able to focus, to make a plan. Yes, I have a plan for my biceps. Now I have a plan for my life too, kind of like that.
Right. So what do you think it is about running in particular that, because I feel like, lifting and running, obviously two different things, but I feel like running for me helped my mentality a lot more. It helped me handle stress a lot more. Did that same thing happen to you?
You work through things while you're running. What are you thinking about? Like you are working through those things. You're whoever it is, it's the ego in you, pretty much, going at it. And you are able, when you're done with that run, I think, how you feel all those endorphins come in and you feel the goosebump. I don't know, maybe that's where the magic happens.
So you mentioned that you feel that it's the fountain of youth. And I have to say, I think that's the most accurate description. I feel like I'm 38. I'll be 40.
I'm 46.
See, you what? See, you look like you're in your 20s, man.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, fountain of youth right here, people.
The gym, exercise, put yourself in a routine. And I feel that any kind of exertion you do in the day, you release all that negative energy that we have, all those judgments that we have. And we all have them, You just have to know how to deal with it, how to get rid of them, and not make your whole day about that. Or your whole life sometimes, I used to see nurses in the hospital. They were there for 15, 20 years, and they were so bitter. Like they were just so mad. You chose this. You could have gone to other places,
Right.
So I myself, I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live. I have to be very positive, right foot forward.
Right. And that's the other thing. So you mentioned the nurses that have been there for a while. I noticed something physical about the nurses that have been nursing, bedside nursing, for
heavy,
a lot of years. Heavy, walking with limps, injured in some way, shape, or form, don't look healthy. And I said to myself, I was like, that can't be me in the next 20 years. That can't be me. And that makes me really think about how many nurses, there are a lot of us, that we don't know how to take care of ourselves. So we're educating our patients. We're supposed to be educating our patients. We're supposed to be models of, I guess, or promoting care.
Yeah.
But we can't even have the discipline enough to take care of ourselves. And granted, I can speak about it because that was me. I didn't have the discipline. But when you do have the discipline and you're able to make those necessary lifestyle habits, you really do treat your patients better. You treat everything in your life kind of just falls into place in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Because how can you're so bitter out in the nursing station. How can you go into a room? What kind of energy are you bringing to that patient's room?
Yes. Yeah. You're not being, in my opinion, if you're not mentally clear, you're not being the best nurse that you can be.
I agree. But I always exercise. I think exercise is the answer to everything. Even after my 12-hour shift, I will go right to the gym back then.
Right, right, right,
I always did it. I did it before nursing, and to this day I do it.
right. So do you kind of like when you're talking to your patients, do you kind of like tell them that part about yourself to kind of like get them moving and get them at least interested in exercise and fitness?
Yes, I do. Well, I used to.
Okay.
So I used to up to right before COVID, I used to per diem at a subacute rehab,
Okay.
mainly after knee surgery, after knee replacement, hip replacement, elbow replacement. So they'll go there, they'll stay there for physical therapy, and they'll get physical therapy twice a day. But I will go into the evening shift to do the nursing stuff. So that was also, a chance for me to educate the patients on the importance of mobility, getting out of bed, and trying to put the sack on yourself.
Right.
Things like that.
Favorite color in the world, brown. And I have another special guest for you, Teresa Howard. She's a nurse, and she has a lot of years of experience. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. We have much to discuss, and we're going to talk about really just health and wellness, and how it pertains to nursing and self-care, and ultimately becoming a better person, a better nurse. So I want to start off by just asking you to just introduce yourself to the listeners. I know you kind of just gave me a quick rundown, but if you can give the listeners a rundown this time, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so I've been a nurse since 2005. I started out as a long-term care nurse. With my favorite portion of that long-term care nursing is the Alzheimer's and lockdown unit. I ended up moving into traveling nursing, home care nurse, private duty services. Took a break to family plan, had my son. I came back to nursing, and I ultimately ended up under managed care. I missed the floor, but given these days, I opt to stay in the managed care in the office setting. So I'm still doing what I love, helping people, making a difference, just in another avenue of nursing.
Gotcha. So, why did you, out of all the healthcare professions, why particular nursing? Why did you kind of go down that road?
That one was a little more personal. I didn't know when I was little. I always wanted to be a nurse, or I actually wanted to be a brain surgeon.
Okay.
So when I was young, I still wanted healthcare, but I was up there, and then my adolescence guided me in another path, right? So learned life relatively young. So given that my grandmother was my second mom, so I was tasked very young with assisting and helping take care of her. Not knowing nearly half of what I know now, I didn't even know I was nursing until later I earned my profession. However, that's kind of what led me into the path of knowing I wanted to help people who always couldn't help themselves,
Right. So you've been a nurse since 2005, so that's a lot of experience, and I know that you've seen a lot of changes within the healthcare industry. What are some of the things that you miss about then versus now in nursing?
I want to say that healthcare overall to me has become more task oriented. The financial component, because it's still a business, right? The financial component sometimes supersedes where you're guiding your care. So sometimes our members, our family members, right, our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, our parents are at the suffering end when everything becomes about a task or money. So I just miss that, if you will, back in the day, it was more about giving that care and making sure the person was satisfied, because I think it was more around person-focused, person-centered. Now everything is tasked, getting more bang for the buck. Let's go, move. And I think I just missed that we were able to slow down and be nurses versus being task-oriented. So I think that's what I miss the most.
So I'm so happy you said that. I wholeheartedly agree. I actually argue with this all the time, and I feel like, I understand that healthcare is a business, but I think that we're too much of a business and less into the business of being human. Like we're a capitalistic country, and I get that, You got to make money in order for us to keep moving forward in many respects. But I think that because money is so entwined that we honestly forget the human aspect of it. So we don't have time to spend with our patients. We don't have time to actually make those connections that many of us really wanted before we even got into this issue. So where do you see, with all that being said, like where do you see nursing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see it consolidated. So what I imagine some days, you have a facility nurse. So now it's no more of that continuous nursing. It moves like into the skilled portion only. So you're at this long-term care center to do a treatment. So you're just doing your skilled component. Okay, you now are needed at the hospital. There's a procedure that has to be done versus that patient-centered care, that taking a minute to have that conversation. So I just see it more consolidated. Again, while it's still a business, that'll be if you think of it in their, on the corporation's end, they're looking to save money, but still get to the main objective. So the main objective is treat the person and get them home. So you can do that if somebody's making visits. You don't have to necessarily now keep that person there for 8 to 12 hours on a shift. They become visiting nurses, if you will. I see it going into that direction if they keep this pace. I wonder what's the difference between us and I think it's Amsterdam, who they have universal health care.
Right.
I wonder why it's so different in one country where it's, the norm. That's the status quo. Everybody has health care. That's part of their country's makeup, whereas we do have the Affordable Health Care Act, but again, it comes with a financial component if you don't follow that. However, there is a subsidized, health care plan that you're able to get if you're eligible. But what makes it so different from a country such as, the Amsterdam? I think about what happened.
Yeah. What happened was capitalism. What happened was the structure of capitalism and, to me, perversion of the healthcare system. And that just makes me think about, all right, we have a lot of new nurses coming in, right? We have a lot of experienced nurses coming out. Now, you just say, you missed the bedside, but you're not there. Now, how many nurses, including myself, are not at the bedside that could be, I guess, instilling a lot of this information that we had when we first started. These new nurses don't have that now. So, I'm curious, if you could say anything to a new nurse right now that just kind of finished their nursing school and passed their boards, what advice would you give them in terms of what they're getting themselves into in this environment?
They need to be able to prioritize and compartmentalize, because I never liked the idea of wagering the quality of the care that I provided, right? So I might not be able to, because I have 6 treatments that night in between my med passes. So I might not be able to converse with you for 20 minutes like I usually do, and I sit at the foot of the bed with them and have as much of a normal convo as I could, right? So now I might be able to give you a little 7 to 10 minutes, but I have to go running down the hall because I want to give, patient B and C, some of that time too. So you have to prioritize your day. You might have to break it up and put in compartments. So, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are your, conversational days. These other days of the week is where you focus on your task and making sure that you have that piece done so that you're not failing and then losing your job, right? But I try to make the impact as least as possible. So that's what I would tell them. Prioritize your time wisely and compartmentalize your day. That's the only way for me that I get that peace of mind, is knowing that I hit all the marks, not like I want to, but it's that versus none. So, it can't be all, a rushed process, because again, the distraction is real, in any type of nursing. It could be a phone call, it could be a doctor, it could be a code, it could be anything that will totally distract you from that quality that you're so used to giving. But you got to find your happy medium.
Right. Exactly. And so part of that happy medium is taking care of yourself, right? And
Hmm.
as we kind of touched on in the beginning, before we press record, many nurses do very bad jobs of taking care of themselves. Um, can you talk about like why do you think that is? I mean, I know, but maybe the listeners might not might not fully know why.
I
Like
have two
why?
reasons, and I think I told you the first one. I think nurses make the worst patients, right? Because we're always self-diagnosing or under-diagnosing. You're seeing sparks, and you're sweating, and you're always full of anxiety. So now your blood pressure is affected. Where we're just like, oh, you know what? I did just come up and down those steps. So we'll
Yeah.
underdiagnose just to make it better. So we make the worst patients, and a number two is because you find yourself forgetting yourself. So by nature, nurses usually are caring creatures. It's something innate that comes from within that makes you have a desire to care for others. So that becomes so much of what you know, and you forget that you too need that. That's vital, because that's what's going to give you that healthy mindset going out into the field. And yes, we are guilty of often forgetting ourselves. And again, opening up for just tasks. I'm so tired. I'm so stressed. I haven't slept had a good sleep in days. And not that we're fixing it. Now we're going to work just drained. And now we're like become that task oriented nurse that we don't want to become. So, it is a trickle down effect. And it's crazy. It all ties into each other when you sit back and take a moment.
It definitely does. I mean, even down to rest, and eating well. Eating well during your shift. I mean, I remember working overnight, and everybody wants to order out, and you do that enough, you develop habits.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that you kind of, I guess, dealt with trying to maintain your wellness in a chaotic nursing environment? And I know it's not easy.
So before, when I was on the floor, so I would try to make sure that I was aligning my schedule so that on my days, I maximized that time on my days that I was off. So I made it worth something, right? So when I got back to work, I was refreshed, ready to go. I have 5 more days in me because I planned my next 2 off days because I have this family event or a me, take care of me event, right? So I try to, prioritize my days. Now I work remotely. So that is the hardest challenge, is to remember to get up and step away, right? Because what me and you are doing is primarily a huge part of what I do working remotely is I'm now home. So it's almost the expectation that, oh, if you need them, they'll be there. So you often forget, everybody likes to achieve progress or a success or hit a milestone. So sometimes, again, just being that task-oriented person and wanting to just progress, you forget, get up. That migraine isn't a migraine that you can't fix. It's because you've been at the computer for 7 straight hours and you refuse to get up because you have so many tasks to complete. So I think it's just prioritizing yourself or learning when you need to, prioritize yourself. Take that break, stand up, get some movement. For me, I'm guilty of sitting down, and I sit down all day. When I stand, it's almost foreign to my back because now it's, say you're used to sitting. So even when I walk, it's like, I'm too young. I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm not an older elderly woman. So you become accustomed and you fall into bad routines, working remotely. So again, finding that balance, and that's the hardest thing, that work-life balance, and where you often forget you. This is how I think we become so accustomed to work.
I'm so happy you mentioned that. I mean, it happens to all of us. Because of the nature of our profession, we give ourselves so much that a lot of times we forget to give back to ourselves. We essentially need to become patients to ourselves, and in order for us to prioritize. And one of the things that's why I kind of like wanted to start this podcast because I wanted to kind of bring awareness to healthcare workers. They're not healthy. Like, a lot of them are not unhealthy. A lot of us are unhealthy.
Wait, you're eating hot wings on the overnight shift, that 11 to 7 a.m. And who eats that at 2 o'clock in the morning in a normal home, right? Nobody. 3 to 11, your dinner hour is gone. That's med pass, 5 p.m. med pass. You're not eating at that time. So that's very easy to develop unhealthy habits. Those quick snacks and on-the-go meals have no health component to them. They're just more of a convenience. That Wawa sandwich, the 7-Eleven, all of that is all processed, and really you're not getting the nutrition. And we know it, but it's convenient.
Yes.
And we're accustomed to not taking care of ourselves in that capacity, so it's the normal now. You forget.
And it's a recipe for disaster.
Oh,
it's a
man.
recipe for disaster. And how can we prepare our patients for those moments? So you mentioned processed foods, and I am an advocate against processed foods, especially in, I guess, lower served communities where processed foods are just abundant. And a lot of our patients don't know the dangers of processed foods. And so now they're coming into a hospital and it's a bad day. And what does the manager order when everybody's having a bad day or is too busy? They order a bunch of pizzas.
Pizza.
Not healthy. Not healthy. So now the patient comes in and they're seeing, all right, well, these agents of health are eating pizza.
My nurse eats pizza.
And it's just, we're not being good examples ourselves. And I'm not saying I don't ever eat pizza. Of course, I eat pizza every now and then. But I think what our issue is that we don't often think about the dangers that pizza is going to cause us over time if we eat it continuously. And the same for our patients. Our patients have no idea. They open a bag of potato chips or they eat a bag of potato chips every day. They don't know that everything in that bag of potato chips is going to harm them over time. And it's just, it's for me, I think that's what I would want to change as well. I would want to change the people in the inner city communities and the urban areas and the lower economic, underserved areas. I think that we need to educate them on not so much going to the doctor all the time. Yes, that's important, but I think what's more important is what they put in their mouths and controlling that. And I think if we can at least get to that point, I think we can kind of begin the whole preventative medicine conversation. But if we don't even discuss, hey, potato chips are bad, refined sugar is bad, we can't even get to the whole, preventative medicine.
What's is striking, and I've seen a video. Are we allowed to quote videos we've seen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is
I think it's called The Who. It's a podcast. So I'm not sure. I didn't want to get nobody in trouble. However, I'm very humorous. If I do one thing and they say humor is the best medicine, I definitely fulfill that. However, I seen it's called The Who. Is it called The Who? Where it was like whistleblowing, the pharmaceutical companies, the meat industry, with all of that. And I was vegan for 2 months. And again, lifestyle and bad habits just lead you back down the path of ordering that cheeseburger that, doggone well, you seen the proof. You seen the undercover videos and, so on and so forth. But a big problem of the underserved community, I think, is this. A head of lettuce will cost $3.49. And in McDonald's, you get 2 processed sandwiches for $3.99. So you have nothing to go with that head of lettuce. And it costs just as much as a fully made sandwich. Well, 2 fully made sandwiches in your mind as an uneducated member of your community, right? Because they don't have the knowledge base, because they wouldn't need this type of counseling, right? So they don't have anything to go with that lettuce, but they have 2 full meals, if you will. One for lunch and one for dinner for just a little more than what that head of lettuce costs. So, you go to get something organic and forget it. Now you're in doggone near another tax bracket because healthy foods are now the barrier. The cost of healthy foods, let me say, is now the barrier to someone who's already enduring a struggle of not knowing whether to medicate or whether to eat. So now you're telling them that for this organic, lettuce or this organic corn, you're paying about double of what it would cost or triple for a can of corn. No, you don't know how long that corn sat in that can, and it don't expire for about another 11 months. Cost $1.19. And then you get organic corn, 4 cobs, and that is $6.79. So, that's a big barrier to someone who can barely afford that $1.19 consistently to have some kind of vegetable intake. And then you give them a vegetable that's, 6 times, 5 times more than something processed. So a lot is just the makeup of the world, if you will. It's convenience, it's cost. It's a lot of things have to, has to be a group effort, right? And so when I seen that video, they talk about the big pharma and how they market fast foods and, how they market specifically to our children. So that's why when you see a fast food commercial, it's bright, it's characterized, it's animated, it's eye-catching, So when you're on Friday, you done bust your tail all week as the parent, and the kid's like, can we just please order just cheeseburgers? And you're like, shoot, I really don't want to cook. This is gonna be one of the times I say yes, right? So they definitely market to the youth, because eventually they're going to be the adults with these poor habits, who are eventually going to be the elderly who don't know. So it's a bad process that we're in, like a hamster wheel. Kim always says, when you're back in it doing the same thing, like insanity, expecting something different, but you're doing that same routine that has developed into high cholesterol and plaques in your arteries, and now it's costing you way more to try to remediate it, because these medications big pharma is in on how they market to the children. So it's an evil process, I'll tell you, but it is a fact of life. So it's tough. It's tough. So you have to kind of think out the box on how we can get into these communities, first of all,
Right. And thinking out the box is exactly why I think that platforms like podcasts, social media, where we can, healthcare professionals like you and I can actually just get out there and kind of just talk to the people, talk to your friends about health. And I think the more we spread that news, like even what you just said about how everything is engineered almost against you. All the food is engineered almost against you. You have to be extremely intentional if you want to be healthy. And if you want to be healthy in our busy society with all of our responsibilities, you have to be so disciplined and so precise that it's not easy. And if you're not a person who has discipline, if you're not a person who is precise, that could be like almost impossible. But I think what you said was awesome, and just the fact that you have to be aware that there's not much good food out there for you to be eating. and it's easier for you to get the bad food. But I don't even think that a lot of people are aware of that. I don't think they're aware that, okay, yes, it's hard to get some organic food, but this food is non-nutritious at all. And so you kind of have to make a difficult decision. But, ultimately, which one granted, I'm not in a situation, but which one am I going to choose if I'm ever in that situation? I know it's going to give me nutrition over time versus not. But again, it's tough. Like you said, it's extremely tough.
Yeah, I think, another thing that may ever help, given this is a platform to just throw things out. So my son's in football now. And so I met one of the other football moms, and we got really close. And we've got close enough so that I know like where she lives at now and whatnot. However, she is one of 6 black farm owners in the state of New Jersey. So what she does is she comes to the games because some of the mothers have, some of the mothers are single, some of the mothers don't have, and they're not single, So she'll bring a box of fruits and vegetables. Any snacks she donates for the children are all organic from her farm or cost share farms that she does business with. So she'll have, grapes and strawberries now, oranges and tangerines, all kind of stuff. Anything that you can think of as the good fruits, like, yes, some sweet bananas and some sweet berries. And I have never eaten fruit that tastes that sweet. So I asked her on the side, I said, did you buy that? She said, no, I swear I didn't. And so I'm like, what? She said, yeah, that's just the effect of no chemical. Everything is natural, fertilizer is natural. And even when she mixes the waste with her soil and whatnot, it's all natural because they're organic and vegan fed. So, she uses when things, she's not going to use them pumpkins and whatnot. And, the livestock gets all of that fresh nutrient. So it tastes all of the way different. And so I actually thought she was jiving us about, fresh fruit. So, and maybe getting more farms involved with not so much of a donation because, they too got to keep their bills running. But it is definitely cheaper than trying to get to a Whole Foods or to trying to get to a Trader Joe's. A lot of these farming companies come out to the stores. So why wouldn't, you be able to get them to do a community event, So I think it just is going to take some planning and become a group effort because these farmers have to get involved. They got to think of the businesses coming to them, why wouldn't they? But getting people open to that. You have 15 years, you're used to that canned corn, those canned peas and carrots. You don't know what it is to chuck some peas and really make them fresh, and you don't know what you're missing, anyhow. But, it's a whole different palette of taste and whatnot, and it's healthy, So I just think along those lines. So I love that, she is out in the community and making sure that people have awareness. Like you said, her social media is always blaring with events and things to do and come and learn about this. And I just love that piece of it. I live in more so of a rural community, so it's not a lot of it going on. So then we all get to sharing. The word of mouth is the best advertisement. So just trying to get the knowledge out there is a little tough. But if we have enough of us, there's power in numbers. So.
You said it right there. If there's enough of us and building those communities, having those conversations, because what she did, you weren't aware that people were actually doing that. You were, but you didn't realize that it was like right next to your next door neighbor, like where she
20
lives,
minutes
like
down the road. Yes, McDonald's is 4 minutes down the road, right? But if you are starting to think about your health and making that your priority, take care of yourself, you'll take that 20 minutes and then you're getting some awesome stuff. So it is a lifestyle change. I can't say I do this all the time and, because I'll be a liar, but when I make that conscious choice, then I make it my business. So hoping in the years to come I get better. More so for my children, if nothing else, so they could develop healthier habits. I'm an old horse, so it's taking me a little bit.
Nah, but you like you said, like you know what you have to do when you're doing it, and when you fall off, you're aware that you fall off. And I think that's the important thing. Like we all fall off. We're all not 100% perfect every day. We're all not going to exercise every day. We're not going to eat, grass or lettuce every day.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're aware of when we do fall off, when we're not at our baseline, if we're saying to ourselves, "Oh, I might be a little tired today. I wonder why." Like that just awareness, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one more question, and I wanna bring this to newer nurses again, and really I want you to kind of go back to when you were a new nurse, right? You just finished your boards. You started your new job. What would you tell her pertaining to the nursing field in terms of just anything? Like, what would you tell that young you just started?
Take your time. Everything is in a race. You often make bad, or let me just say you often make the less good choices when you're rushed. So they're not calculated. And that really just pertains to anything. That's just life in general. Take your time. Learn and know your profession. Learn and know what direction you want to go in. You want to be a nurse? Yes, you have a good career. You've chosen the right path, but just take your time. Just know what you want to do with yourself and your direction. It's not a race necessarily. You did the hard part. You got you passed the boards, right? So that was the hard part. That complexes this, However, the hard part is done. Take your time, because if you put the time into yourself and make sure that you have a game plan, life would become more meaningful because you already know the direction or the path you've outlined. You know what you can take on, you know what you can't, you know what you ultimately want to do. I think a lot of the times as new nurses, we're rushed. We're rushed. It's like, hurry up, get a job. You got to hurry up. Okay, you're going to have to just take whatever comes right now because you're new. Nobody takes anybody new these days. So you're often rushed. Take your time. Make all of those late nights and term papers and project papers, make that all count, and just to give yourself a little time.